that right. Um, the number's so big and life happens that, yeah, let me know. Let me bring something up. Um, Let me make sure I'm on Facebook. So if you have any questions, you can send them. Make sure everything's working right. Okay, so everything is looks good. I'm going to turn that down and open it up. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Today we have some good news. And let me see if I can bring it up. Mm-hmm. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So, so here's the good news. The migrant children at Fort Bliss are being moved to a repurposed North Carolina boarding school. They are being moved away from that border, um, which is very, very good news. And I'll even bring up my map to kind of show you what I was so concerned about. Let me see if I can. Because this case has, our son's case has exposed so much, I believe. Um, Let me make sure I can put it as locations of Richard's remains, and it will come up, I believe. Well, a couple of them. Let's see if there's another one. It's, it's just crazy what you have to do. Let's do points of interest. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Here it is. Yep. Sorry about that, y'all, but I just want to show you this area. Okay, so today is 1,069 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and I need to make sure that I blind some of this out. Okay. I just saw some things. Okay, there we go. Because we have, lots of points of interest. This map here that I have is called points of interest, and I'll bring that up. I'll show it to y'all. Um, this was a lead that we received. This is the Santa Teresa point of entry right here. And you just drive right down here into this Oxo here. This is Mexico. And when you turn, this was the lead given to us about Richard's remains being in this area here. And there is like an orphanage daycare. This is the location here of the nearest that we can get. It's not the exact location, but the location of the lead that we received, that Richard was killed in this area and that he was in uniform. Okay. But also the leads of the autopsies that we would like to know, if, can you confirm them or can you deny them? But we haven't heard anything. It's been crickets. And we have now sent a letter to Judge Shook, and maybe he can give us answers. The main point of the letter, well, there was many things that we would like for Judge Shook to give us. And we've heard crickets, not even a response that he received our email, which will come full circle in this live stream. But the main thing is the warrant. What probable cause, what JAG was used. Was he the judge that signed off on the warrant used to search our home? That's the main reason why we wanted to, inquire with this judge, is because it seems that the sheriffs there in the fugitive apprehension unit, which is an assault unit, sent an assault team to our home, and they can't produce a warrant. And so we would like this judge to confirm or deny that this warrant exists or doesn't exist. What did they use? And what was the probable cause that he had to sign off on in order to get the warrant? And the probable cause would be that, Richard is maybe on the run, a fugitive, or if he's dangerous. But you see, if they can't produce a warrant, and we absolutely know, because we had a very cooperative meeting with the fugitive apprehension team that came. We cooperated with them. They had no probable cause in their search of our home. Okay? They had no probable cause. You can tell if they have a problem. If they feel in danger, if they feel someone's in danger around them, if they feel that we're in danger, then they would have made that all known to us. But that wasn't the case at our meeting. And the video, I'm sure he had a recording, I'm sure he had video, would prove that. So that's what we're trying to get here is, this is our case now. So not only are we in the big leagues with the top agencies paying attention to this and knowing about this case, but also that we had an illegal search of our home, the illegal trespass of our home by an assault unit, which is meant to be intimidating. Okay, if you're going to send someone out to your home, you're not going to send an assault team, right? So why were they weaponizing an assault team against us without probable cause? I mean, that's the real question here. And so we asked Judge Robert Lee Shuck these questions, and we included in these leads of the autopsies. And this autopsy here for location 4, we call it, is in Mexico. Is in Mexico. And it just happens to be by an orphanage. Um, Casa Hogar is another child shelter. Um, then here, this is like an orphanage daycare. And of course, we were interested in the horse, the ranches, because of this truck with Farnsworth Racing, right? And so, and we haven't forgotten any of that. The Farnsworth Racing, that connects the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with this case. And we've asked them to come out and clarify. They have that area is very, very prominent for the Mormons, and there's two temples. Uh, on the Mexican side, there's so if you are a Mormon, you belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. On the American side, you received a special pass in order during the COVID too to go over to Mexico to go and worship in the temples. Okay, so we found that out, and this Farnsworth Racing, they're very big in the horses and that. Um, so are they transporting children that way? That's what came to my mind. That was just a suspicion, because we had at that time over 20,000 unaccounted for minors that were supposed to be looked after, staying at the emergency intake center on Fort Bliss, and admirals were running it. And then we found out that when they opened up that emergency intake center there on Fort Bliss, and could not, in this day and age, with all of its technology, with all of its monies, and what I mean by that is the taxpayers and the future generations give our government whatever they need. Trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars in support. And not only that, volunteer support. Also, matter of fact, it's kind of killing the volunteer spirit of the United States. And the United States was the only country, is the only country that has the volunteer spirit, was built on the volunteer spirit. Look that up. Do a little study on it. It's really fascinating, because we take that volunteer spirit for granted. But if you go to other countries, they just don't have that. And so, the candy stripers and everybody that, the history of the volunteers in our country. But this emergency intake center right there on Fort Bliss, with so many unaccounted for minors, is now, I believe, let's bring that up. Let's see. Oh, here it is now going to be lessened, or they're going to move them all together. It just came up, and so I just thought, oh my gosh, this is absolutely wonderful that they are moving these children out of Fort Bliss, because Fort Bliss is a mess. Fort Bliss, and maybe this has to do with that 14-year-old girl that was living in the barracks being prostituted out to the soldiers there. And was Richard complaining about things like this? Because we have intel that that's not an isolated incident, that that's not a one-off, that there are others. And we absolutely believe that there are others. And all this talk about saying that I'm a conspiracy person. Yes, I am going to own up to believing that there is a conspiracy behind this. Okay. That our agencies conspire together, collude together. Okay. That people that have um, incredible power come together in meetings and collude and conspire together against one another and against us or for us or whatever. However, they collude and conspire, they do. And some of them may be good, but right now we're in a position where they've conspired against us. And in Richard's case, they've conspired against us and they've colluded against us. And to witness over 1,000 days of this, of proof, I can absolutely stand firm and report to everyone that's listening that there are collusions, that there are conspiracies, that there are so many collusions and so many conspiracies. And when you're in business, and we have so many monopolies today, so many monopolies, you better believe that those monopolies happen because of colluding together and conspiring together. And they do that also with our agencies and with our institutions. And absolutely, there is conspiracy and collusion inside our DOD. There is colluding and conspiracy inside our Department of Justice. There is colluding and conspiracy inside the FBI. There is colluding and conspiracy and conflict of interest to the, oh my gosh, inside the CID, especially there on Fort Bliss. On Fort Bliss. And anyone that wants to deny that is wearing rose colored glasses. Okay. And they're, because you had a 14-year-old female, a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, being prostituted out. And y'all, that's just a tip of the iceberg. I know more. I know more about this case. And this is not an isolated case. And if you don't think that there is conspiracy and colluding to allow for that to happen, with 44 four-star generals and admirals, we are top heavy. That's just the 4 stars. What about the flag officers? What about what about the NCOs? What about the Esprit de Corps? What about the Medal of Honor ethos? What about the creeds? What about what I'm getting from the beginning? From the beginning, retaliated against because I'm a Christian. Because I'm a Christian. And I believe in the Christian morals. The laws of God, right? Those 10 commandments. I believe in saying the Lord's Prayer. I believe in the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed and the Athanasius Creed. I believe in the liturgical year, celebrating all the things that God has done for us through starting with Advent all the way till ordinary time, Trinity. Trinity is always, right? Trinity is always the one and the many, all the time. Because the one and the many means that the one is not ultimate, the many is not ultimate, the one is ultimate, the many is ultimate. And that seems confusing, but it means that your individual person, is just as important as the rest of us, right? Richard is just as important as the U.S. Army, okay? As the entire U.S. Army put together, the entire DOD put together, the entire world put together. And you can have 99 sheep, one or 100 sheep, one goes missing. You leave the 99, you go find the one, right? And God rejoices over that. That doesn't mean that God doesn't rejoice over the 99. It's the one and the many. The Trinity is um, the only answer to what um, the only answer to are you important, or is the many more important? Is the many less important and the one more important? That one can become a dictator, one can become tyrannical, and or one has special treatment and doesn't have to abide by the laws. You see, it works both ways. And so I believe in that kind of theology, in that kind of Christian faith. I do not believe that children are disposable, that you can sexually assault them over and over and over again and sell them off, that you can bring them into a military institution, let them live there on taxpayers' dime and prostitute them out and pocket the money. I think that's absolutely a major crime. And I believe that Richard was exposing those crimes against the children, against young mothers. I believe that. And I believe he was exposing the child sex pornography that was being produced and broadcasted and sold by airdropping and whatnot. And we have all of that kind of technology making everything possible in criminal syndicates, but you're telling me that you can keep track of the children migrants that you're housing on Fort Bliss with all of the tools, with all of the money? So this is very, very good news. This means something is happening behind the scenes. And, what I said the other day, uh, Jesus, you know, admonishes his people by saying, ye of little faith. And that has been a great Bible lesson for me because I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I don't know who's going to be. Well, our daughters were in a Shakespeare group, and I'm trying to think of which play they did um, that I'm thinking of. Dogberry. Anyway, so there's character in this play, and it'll come to me. This Shakespearean play has a character named Dogberry, and he's you know um, not not the smartest chap. People don't think that he's the smartest chap, right? That he's not the smartest investigator. That he's not well, he's not popular, and he's not suave. He doesn't have charm school, right? He hasn't been to charm school. And yet, it was him who solved the case. It was him that was the hero at the end of the day. And I learned a big lesson just having our daughters in that play, because you don't know who's going to come out to help you. That God is going to put someone on your side, and uh, we have help right now, y'all. We have legal help right now. We have writing help, someone to help us right now. And that was so unexpected. And I want to just say thank you so much for that daily help, daily, to get, I guess, a boost, a shot of energy. Um, I mean, God provides, right? And so, and then this comes out that the emergency intake site at Army Post, they don't say Fort Bliss, they need to say Fort Bliss in the headline. Fort Bliss, Fort Bliss. Army Post is being placed in warm or inactive status. Woohoo! Um, yeah, it's right there. It's right there. Report migrant children at Fort Bliss. Sorry. Sorry. I stand corrected. It's right there. That's good. Thank you, Border Report. Being moved to repurposed North Carolina. So that means all of them. So this just came out, and that's why I was just made aware of it, and I just had to bring it on. So I need to read through all of this, and it is really, if the headline is right, wow. And I want to say that who put this up? I was sent this information, um, and then I posted it up, and then I was sent another really nice message saying it was partly because of the work that you've done and on your live streams, getting this out there, and not in those exact words, but to that effect. And I just feel very, very humble about that because I don't believe um, it's me being on here. It is everyone that's paying attention, right? It's everyone that comes on here late at night, takes time out of their day, the long suffering. I mean, we are at 1,069 days, okay? And we have been through so much and so much negativity, and people are still with us, still with us. As a matter of fact, we're growing, and we need to grow. We need to grow really fast in order to force this congressional inquiry. And so, if you are an active duty soldier, especially at Fort Bliss, if you're an active duty Fort, like maybe Anthony Swafford would want to help. I've asked him to help. Maybe someone in Richard's unit would want to help. Um, and those are not slights. That is all well-meaning. That is all well-meaning because I think that the hoodwinking, the psyops, the hypnotism, the atmosphere, the environment, the social pressure, the retaliation that our service members, the immense pressure in so many ways that our service members are under. Um, I really don't hold a grudge. I want justice. I want justice. Because I know that Richard, um, that the command, let it go. They fostered it. They even, they even gave the okay to murder Richard. They might not have given the order. We haven't been told that yet. But they definitely gave it the okay to murder Richard. And this is, we've got to get justice to stop this, to restrain this evil. It's like a cancer. It's like a cancer. That they don't think that children are have any value. The one and the many, the Trinity, don't mean anything to them. And they don't believe, and so they allow the children to be abused. Look at Leilani Hart waited almost 2 years before a reporting, and it was just because of whatever she wanted, a selfish reason. um, that I was told, okay, because I talked to the people surrounding this confession, this notarized confession, and you wait 2 years. Didn't you think about the child? Don't you care about the child? And then, don't you care about our young service members? I mean, they're as young as 17 coming in, right? They're as young as 17. They need mentors. They actually need someone to look up to. And, you know, um, to say, oh, well, they're no angels. Hey, look, we all know as parents that none of our children come into this world as angels. All right? We know that we have to train up our children in the way they should go, right? And every NCO knows that they have to train up their soldiers in the way they should go. Every military knows that. These young uh, service members that come in, because the reason why I'm saying that is because I've been told, oh, but you don't have to deal with them. No, look, then you're in the wrong job if that's how you feel. You need to love your soldiers. You need to serve your soldiers if you're an NCO. And the same thing with these 44 four-star generals who have betrayed us, who have serviced foreign and domestic enemy. They have done far worse, okay? They're in a different echelon. Those 44 four-star generals, they have done far worse. Far worse, because they've sold out our country. They committed crimes against humanity. I'm talking about the NCO and even the command sergeant major that, has to just think it's normal for his general to say, hey, the guys or the soldiers are a little bit down in the dumps. Let's bring in the girls. Let's bring in the girls during COVID. It's all a sham anyway. Let's bring in the girls. Shh, shh, shh. It's a secret. It's a secret. Oh, well, should we card them? Should we make sure they're 21 since we take underage drinking so seriously, very seriously? Yeah, and in the archive right now, I'm going to go off on a tangent because I think this is so important. Um, Rob requested, and I'm going to say we requested Richard's file, his archive. We received it. It was partial. Not one mention of the field grade Article 15. Not one mention of the chaptering. Not one. Nothing. Zippo. Nothing. And other things. And of course, it had that he had been promoted twice. We were like, what? He's been promoted? He was promoted in December of 2022 and promoted again this April in 2023, 4 months later. And he's in cold case, and he's supposed to have all oh, if you only knew how they smeared him to all the law enforcement. What they were doing behind our back to law enforcement, to political pundit groups, to the media, They were smearing our son to make the media, to make all the law enforcement agents and officers not care about him. Because for some reason, our culture is to let the criminals go and only hunt for the nice guys. Only hunt for, oh, you don't have your seatbelt on? You're driving without your seatbelt? We're going to get you. You didn't pay $5 in taxes? You were short $5? Well, we're going to get you. You have a joint? Oh, we're going to get you. You know? I mean, it's just so absolutely insane. Insane. You had a 0.04 BAC? We're going to get you. You mean you got the wrong turn in a construction uh, lane? You didn't know how to make that U-turn? You went to the border and reported yourself so you could make you so that you didn't cross over into Mexico? We're going to get you good. We're going to get you good. We're going to make your life so miserable that you might think that life is not worth living. That's what Elder Fernandez's mother was talking about when she said, and I think she should get an honorary doctorate, because she said they're training our soldiers to suicide. That's what she was saying. And I thought, wow, she's right. She's right. And all of what we endured at the beginning, all of the insane smearing of our son, it was so, they couldn't even do it right. I guess they're so used to doing it. It's like standard operating procedure to them to smear the victim so that no one will think about them, throw them out in the trash, and no one will inquire and no one will report on them, and they can get away with their criminal syndicate activity. I guess that's the standard operating procedure here. And at the beginning of all of this, it was so bad. It was so over the top. And I was like, with our family, we were like, no way. No way. We have to take a stand and advocate for Richard. We have to be his champions. He's our champion. He's children's champion. He's young mother's champion. We have to be his champion now. And they smeared him so bad with that Gomar, with that chaptering, with that field grade Article 15. Remember Captain Park's a letter to me about, just pointing his finger at me, how much trouble Richard gave him. And here we find out it's all a lie, because Richard's being promoted twice in cold case. And in the archive, in his file, they scrubbed it of the field grade Article 15 that we had a petition out for them to resend. We had a petition for them to resend that unjust field grade Article 15, because if you would have read it, you would have known. And they did a 15-6 on it, and the 15-6 came back that they not only gave him maximum punishment, I mean, they totally destroyed him, but they also added punishment to it. They added even more punishment than legally dictated. And so that's not in the archive. So it makes you wonder, and we're wondering why they even left the chaptering, because you have to understand the Gomar that Major General Clem Coward gave Richard was because of a case that was dismissed. A nothing burger in a parking lot. Right? So he had no, so they gave him that. And because it wasn't just a regular Gomar, Clem Coward made that, and this is a 2-star general, okay? A 2-star general. He decided to make that a permanent. So what was he afraid of with Richard? You got a 2-star general afraid of a whistleblower. I'm going to repeat that again. You have a 2-star general afraid of a whistleblower. So much so that I believe he called off the search for Richard. I believe on day 2, 3. I believe at least day 3. Let's play it safe. On day 3, I believe Clem Coward, Richard's commanding general, called off the search for Richard, called off any investigation into Richard, because the CID didn't come back until the 1st of September 2020, after we had gotten involved in trying to find Richard, and social media posts and congressional letters and all this stuff that we were doing. I mean, it was incredible what we were doing. All of Team Find Richard Halliday calling the media, calling Congress, calling senators, calling everyone, and us getting on the corners of intersections there in El Paso. Afterwards, but September 1st they got involved. But we had let them know. We let them know before we were coming that because they said that Richard's passport wasn't in his inventory and his things, and it was. That was a lie. But you have to understand, every conversation was Richard is at fault. Richard is at fault. Richard is the bad guy. Richard is the criminal. Richard, and you had soldiers shaking. You had the command sergeant major shaking. You have the major general taking out the tools that we've entrusted to him and making a permanent GOMAR against Richard that led to the chaptering, because he's afraid of Richard. Because Richard was standing up against what? Clem Coward, Major General Clem Coward. What was Richard standing up against? What were you going to be exposed? That is my question. And you know what? I don't think it's conspiratorial. I don't think it's collusional. I think it's absolutely appropriate at this time, especially with the information that we have, to ask these questions. And another big question to ask is, why wasn't this the Field Grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some illegally, and the chaptering? Why wasn't the chaptering information in the archive? Well, let's put our thinking caps on. I think it's because they're getting ready. They're getting ready for a congressional inquiry. They're covering themselves. And we have some paperwork for in Richard's file, but we wanted the full file. And I think they're getting ready, because the JAG, okay, so we're in this JAG conflict because of our illegal search on our home without a warrant. And because one of our, and I want to put them right on the top of the list, key witnesses has been banned from going onto Fort Bliss. Now, I received that they are opening Fort Bliss to all kinds of visitors, but when it comes to a witness in a missing soldier's case and Find Richard Halliday's case, they're going to ban our key witness from entering Fort Bliss. Did they ban the other key witnesses? Can Nadal Baim still go on? Can Danae Katzen still go on? Can Belen Rocha still go on? Um, and I can list more and more. Can Anthony Swafford still go on Fort Bliss? And yet, a vetted key witness that has authority in his position is being banned from Fort Bliss? Because Danae Katzen has a record. Belen Rocha has a record. So many of the visitors going on to Fort Bliss have records. And yet, if you are a key witness, well, see, the thing is, if you're a key witness and find Richard Halliday and you have authority, and your authority is to go on there and investigate and question, they don't want that. That is obstruction of justice. That's tampering with a witness. That's so criminal. And so here we are inquiring. We have a point of contact with the lawyers, with the JAG on Fort Bliss, and my husband made some questions, inquiries. Clarify this. You know, who is behind banning one of our key witnesses from entering Fort Bliss? And by the way, who participated, interfered, retaliated against, whatever you want to call it, even us, by sending, can they not? I don't even think they have it. But what we know that they have warrants, but what are those warrants for in Richard's case? We want to know, because one of them might be the warrant that they used to search our home, but they can't produce it for us. So we've asked Judge Robert Lee Shook to produce that information for us, to clarify that information, to share that information, to be, this is the thing that really gets me, is the United States Army works for us. Why are they withholding information? Why are they tampering with witnesses? Why are they obstructing justice? Why are they not transparent? Okay, the case of Richard Halliday is not because of a threat to the security of the United States. It's the training and the mission and the conspiracy and the colluding of the 44 four-star generals that are a threat to the security of the United States. Not my son's case. And their colluding and conspiracy and their criminal cabal that they have going, serving foreign and domestic enemies, that have allowed 14-year-old girls to be living in the barracks with, at the least, most of the time it's a wider margin, 9-1, 9 males to 1 female, and she's being prostituted out. Who's overseeing her other times? I mean, they're setting her up for sexual assault, sexual harassment. She's living in that environment. And she's not an isolated case. And then you have all of, we'll talk about the one, and then we'll talk about the many, the 85,000 unaccounted for minors from the emergency intake center. And then we'll talk about the one again, Richard Halliday, the whistleblower that was exposed by the CID. And we have information that it was special agent in the CID who is responsible for the forced disappearance and murder of our son, and information that the command gave it an okay. And that we have the chief there in special as a special agent in the CID of Fort Bliss, scrubbing Richard's file of any mention of the key witness. So let's scrub him from Richard's file. We have it on record that he did that. And so he's scrubbing Richard's file of any mention of the key witness, while JAG is interfering by banning and getting the general to sign off, maybe not being briefed properly, okay, because we witnessed David Stewart not being briefed properly, the Brigadier General. We witnessed that he was not being briefed properly. We witnessed them retaliating against him for trying to help. Because he's the one that said when he got there, the barracks were just flush with weapons. He was being honest with us. It was a Brigadier General that told us to our face that the barracks there on Fort Bliss were flush with weapons. It was a Command Sergeant Major that told us to our face that when Clem Coward was the general, they brought in the girls during the COVID for morale, to have parties in the barracks. And, my question is, did the Command Sergeant Major chaperone the party to make sure they all stood 6 feet apart and that all of the girls that they brought in were 21 years old or older? Did they card them? I don't think so. And the thing is many times these girls bring things with them. And we already know that the barracks is a marketplace for illegal drugs. And that's a systemic problem. We already know that because of the brutal murder of Austin Hawke. Let me answer any questions. But I really feel like the whole archive situation that we have and this JAG problem that we have, because he's upset with us, y'all. He is upset that we're asking questions. It's kind of like that paralegal. You go up to their door. They're there. Oh, how can we help you? What kind of questions can we give you answers for? Your son, he did this. Okay, let me go up. Oh, you mentioned my son. You mentioned that, we can ask you questions. You're there to service, to be of service. And they go nutso. It's like, do you know anything about my son? You were just screaming out about my son. Ooh. And this attorney, what is going on behind the scenes that he can't act professionally? That he has to write in all caps? That he has to cease any kind of service with us? Or, they're so scared. They are so scared. He might not be involved, but he apparently knows something, or he feels something. He feels the vibrations of what's coming down the pipe, right? I think he does. And yes, the corruption, Danielle, thank you for coming on. Thank you so much. And Anicia, thank you so much. And thank you for your prayers. And Ana Maria, watch Dateline Unforgettable Voices for Vanessa. Maybe you can give some new connections. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will definitely watch that. I watched the first I Am Vanessa. I did watch that, and that really helped. It really helped. And Richard is the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. Okay? No one can forget that. He is the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. And so it's really disgusting how they've botched this investigation. I think it's disrespectful to Vanessa Guillen all over again, to allow this thing to happen all over again, to not answer the inquiries of was Richard dismembered, because that's the leads that we're getting. Because that's what happened to Vanessa. She was dismembered. And, y'all, I think it really is a kick in the teeth to all the work that the Guillen family have done. So, and I'm not going to let that happen to the memory of Vanessa Guillen. We're going to fight really hard. We're going to fight really hard for the memory of Vanessa Guillen and for the memory of Richard. We're not going to let them die in vain. And we're going to get accountability. We want justice for the sake of all other service members, because there's too much grooming going on. There's too much criminal syndicate going on. It's been going on for a long time, and it has snowballed. It has snowballed to that they have an SOP for training to suicide. And this questions any case that Marlon Soto was part of needs to be reinvestigated. Okay? Any case. Can you imagine he smeared Richard at the beginning? Can you imagine smearing a missing soldier if you are a CID agent and you're smearing him to law enforcement? You're smearing him to the command. You're smearing him to the media. You are giving false information. Every investigation that man touched needs to be reinvestigated. And then he didn't stop there. He protected Tavita Nusa. He protected Leilani Hart. And so he protected First Lieutenant Dallas Hart and others. He protected Jay Paulin, because don't forget, Jay Paulin has a conflict of interest in the CID also. So, and they had the opportunity to tell us all of this. Even the law enforcement agencies had the opportunity to question us about the information that Marlon Soto was giving them behind our back. And then he scrubs Richard's file of any mention of our key witness. That's so criminal, y'all. So not only do we have a criminal inquiry going on from the guard mount, because I feel so bad for Anthony Swafford, because young guy, but he was trained all wrong, and he allowed himself to be trained all wrong. He was hypnotized, he was psyopted, and he did the wrong thing. And maybe he will look to that training that he got and that guard mount, and he will hold them accountable. Because that was so bad what happened. And for the FBI to tell us that their FBI man is a nobody, and he is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, and he's saying that the FBI, he's hearing from Lieutenant Colonel, and he is with the FBI, and the FBI have been looking for Richard in Juarez found him, and he's dead. Shh. And we called the State Department to confirm if the FBI were looking for Richard's remains in Mexico. And lo and behold, what does he answer? Yes. And he starts telling us the different places. He told us 3 before he stopped. And there's many people that know about this because I have live streams to prove all of it. And that's why these live streams are so important. They are a documentation of our daily botched investigation by the CID, by the United States Army, by the FBI, uh, by the command, by people that we've trusted, that we have supported, literally, monetarily. So I'm going to watch these movies. If I get a chance, maybe some people need to watch them for me and summarize it, because in the evening, which was normally like right now, which would be my movie time, um, I'm doing the live streams. And what I'm trying to watch is the congressional hearings, because I think they're getting ready for a congressional inquiry. And that's why we need you. This is a great time. This is a really great time, uh, a much more receptive time than in 2020 when we were doing it. 2020 COVID, oh, it was just a miserable. It was so miserable. I hate COVID so bad because it hurt the investigation. It hurt the search for our son. It hurt so many service members. It was so evil. Crimes against humanity. I can't even. It hurt Mexico. It hurt countries all over every country around the world that that the grips of that kind of those mandates were in, um, and I'm just passionately hating it. The mandates. It just and these the liars and liars and liars, that hurt so many people, and it really hurt our son's case. It hurt it socially, and also absolutely in its investigation. And I just think it was so criminal. So I don't know what got me on that, but yes, this is a great time now to write those congressional letters, to write your senator, to write the media. This is because this is a double election year. It's an election year in Mexico, and this you have to include Mexico in this. So if you God bless you if you speak Spanish, okay? God bless you. If you can write any Mexican official, a Chihuahuan official, if you have any connections, you can please do that. And then in the United States, because this is definitely international, and if you've been paying attention, I want to, if you haven't been paying attention, if you've been paying attention, you already know. But if you haven't been paying attention to this case, I want you to know that you are on sure footing. Richard was a yellow Interpol. Go look that up. A yellow Interpol. He just was promoted twice while in cold case. They scrubbed his archive of their wrongdoing, their retaliation against him. That's what it looks like. They scrubbed his file of our key witness, one of our key witnesses. I mean, there's so much to this, but this, and prohibiting our prime witness from going on to Fort Bliss. No record, just a position of authority that put in a CID complaint, that put in a FBI complaint, that put in a command complaint to Fort Bliss on what he knew about the leaking and the the crime committed against Richard. And the JAG is upset, so much so that they will risk their license. We have to put in a complaint now. We have to lodge a complaint about this attorney. It's terrible. But if we don't, these attorneys feel emboldened to do more of what he just did. And we have to the family has to remind Fort Bliss that they're implicated in the forced disappearance of our son. That we are not their subordinates. They need to respond to us in a respectful manner. And for the most part of these over 1,000 days, we have done a very good job, if I say so myself, of trying to hold this together, and not yell. And I know I've yelled at Soto because, wow, who would have yelled? Oh man, that guy. He so many crimes, y'all, and so many hurt by his crimes. And so I urge you all to write letters to Major General Eisenhower and to whoever you feel led to that they can have some kind of authority and input into this. What about Bill Hicks? What about the Attorney General? Oh, which reminds me, let me put that up. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. I put it up. So many things. Okay. So here it is. Oh my goodness, this report is only 4 hours old, and I believe it is your efforts that brought this to light that has really made this difference. Thank you so much. But I believe it's Team Fine Richard Halliday. I believe it's all of, because I'm just one little person, and it takes a lot. It takes the one in the many. Here is this from Kash Patel. I really didn't know who he was. I think he worked for the Trump team, because he is a MAGA person. But I thought he made a very, very good point. He said, are there any state AGs or DAs that are willing to prosecute Hunter Biden and family for the crimes they have committed in their red state? Doesn't matter if it's a red or a blue state. Is there any AGs and DAs in whatever state, right? And today he came out, this is what this video is, and he calls out 3 states. And one of those states, I think Arkansas is one, Missouri I think is one, but South Carolina is one, okay? And, as many know, I live in South Carolina. So I just was watching this today, and I thought I need to write a letter to the South Carolina DA, AG, but the crimes committed on Richard were in Texas, so we really need those Esparza, Attorney General Esparza, and DA Bill Hicks to do their job. Absolutely. So, yeah. So I thought that was a really, really good point that he made. I wanted to point it out. Is there anything else? Oh, the psychological warfare that was on Fox News. If you don't believe in psychological warfare, um, then you're not informed. It's absolutely there everywhere we are. I mean, we have bots everywhere pulling psychological warfare. And in this case, there has been so much psychological warfare. And so, in order to have psychological warfare, and if you go to the Pentagon, and I should probably look that up, how much money, I know it's in the billions, um, do they spend on psychological warfare? It's huge. It's huge. They have whole farms of keyboard warriors, people, tech people, on their computers doing psychological warfare, trying to manipulate people in the direction that they want to go. That's our Pentagon. That's our Department of Defense. Those 44 four-star generals that committed crimes against humanity. Um, those that were, in 2020, 2021. So, yeah, it's huge news. Good news for the children to get out of the emergency intake center. It is interesting news that it seems to us there's indication, there's little crumbs that the institutions are getting ready for a congressional inquiry into Richard Halliday's case. At least they're preparing. That's what it looks like. And it is interesting that even an attorney who deals with this stuff all the time uh, kind of loses it, right? Is offended, can't handle things professionally when someone inquires about, are you involved in Are you involved? Do you know anything about it? Do you know anything about banning our key witness from Fort Bliss? I mean, is that a bad question? Did you participate in it? Are you, you know, uh, in the knowledge of any of that kind of information? We'd like to know. I mean, I don't think that that is too tough of a question for an attorney at Fort Bliss. Not when they're dealing with 14-year-old girls being prostituted out while living in the barracks. So, and there's so many things that I've been looking through news and they just sweep it under the rug. That guy that did that like Bitcoin thing or whatever, it was some other kind of coin. And, where is he? He just gets a pass? I don't know. I don't know. It's just, um, thank you everyone for sticking with and uh, sharing all of this stuff and keep doing it. So thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Um, thank you. We love